Hi, I'm Dave Hamilton, Director of Operations at the Advanced Energy Center. On our show today, we'll be exploring energy, both the energy that we require to stay alive and the energy it takes to become stars in our fields of work. So let's get right to this. My guest today is Esther Takeuchi. Esther is a SUNY Distinguished Professor. Esther, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it.
It's my pleasure to be here, David. Energy is my favorite topic, as you know, so I'm delighted to have the opportunity to talk about it today with you.
Great. I'm looking forward to it. You are one of the world's leading battery and energy storage researchers. You are well respected throughout the world. Tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got to this point, scientifically, and the research as well as the entrepreneurial parts. How did you get here?
So my graduate training is in chemistry. And then I did postdoctoral research in electrochemistry, so that was a magic combination to lead me towards energy storage. When we're talking about electrochemical energy storage, really what we're doing is using chemicals to deliver electricity. And today, that becomes an incredibly important item, not only for electric vehicles, but coupling with solar, and of course, all of those portable things that we carry around with ourselves these days, everything from iPads to computers to phones. Professionally, it's been a wonderful journey. I've been in this field for a while, and it has never been more exciting than now.
Right. I mean, the research you're doing at the Energy Center is impressive. Have you always been interested in batteries? Was that something that came in your beginning of your research and you just found a passion for it?
I first started working on batteries for implantable medical devices, and that's where I really learned the intrigue of batteries, the unbelievable complexity of something that seems so simple, and the real importance. The batteries are often the enabling device. Without them, the rest of it doesn't work. In a medical device, that's obviously critically important, but in our broader lives, it's important as well. It changes how we live.
Right. So has your approach to research changed at all? I mean, you've been, a leader for some time now, and you've worked in industry, and you've done pure academic research. Have you changed your research methodologies at all over the years?
That's a great question. I have to say it changes all of the time, every year. There's no such thing as standing still in research. You're either reaching for the stars and moving ahead, continuing to evolve, or honestly, you'll be left behind. One of the spectacular things about being at Stony Brook is facilities like the Energy Center, and of course, Stony Brook is only 15 miles away from Brookhaven National Lab that has some of the premier scientists and instrumentation in the world. So those combinations are really amazing. So we up the game every year. We continue to do things better, understand in more detail, and progress faster.
So tell me, I know you're a joint B&L appointment. So tell me about B&L and the relationship between Brookhaven National Lab and Stony Brook and how that impacts your research.
It's a very special relationship, and not many universities have the opportunity to have this. It enables several things. It enables us to do really advanced characterization, to do something called operando testing, where we take a battery as it's working and probe it using high-energy X-rays to understand the mechanisms that are taking place as the battery is working. There are a few there are few universities that have the proximity and the relationship with a national lab like Stony Brook does. So it puts us in a pretty unique position to conduct research that otherwise isn't possible.
So being able to see a battery operate live, so to speak, provides a level of research and information that you've never had before, where you had to run it and then kind of cut it open and see what happened and kind of work backwards like a detective?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And of course, the risk is when you cut something open, how do you know you haven't changed something? Whereas watching it real time is really a very different type of information. It's also a great opportunity for us to train the next generation of energy leaders. They get an experience at the university, they get an experience at the Energy Center, they get an experience at Brookhaven National Lab, and those are pretty special environments for students to participate in as they're coming through their graduate careers.
Sure, sure, absolutely. So regarding research, I'm curious. So you've been very successful in industry, and you are very successful now in academia and in research that way. Are there differences and or similarities in that level, in the type of research and how you approach that research and what the end goals of that research is?
There are some differences in industry. The goal is very clear, that you're driving towards a product and various generations of that product. You still do fundamental research for sure, but I have to say that the focus is really high because you know what your product has to be. And academics, you have the freedom to look a little bit beyond, kind of look a little bit wider as well as deeper. So that's really been interesting because it's allowed me to use some insights that I gained being in industry in terms of understanding what the fundamental questions are and now really probing those by providing various solutions. Let me give some examples
Please.
of that. When I was in industry, I worked on batteries for medical devices, as I mentioned, and one of the problems that could manifest in a defibrillator battery is that lithium deposition happened in the wrong place, and it could affect how the battery worked. So we spent time understanding lithium deposition. So now what we're doing is trying to use that same learning as inspiration, and we're developing some technology that may allow batteries in electric vehicles to charge in 10 minutes, really fast charge. Another example is we used the pacemaker battery as inspiration and have now developed a self-healing solid-state battery that if the battery develops a dendrite in a short, it'll heal itself and keep on going. So I think that the learnings that you have and the experiences that you have, or that I've had over the course of my career, continue to inform our ability to move in new directions. And academics provides us the opportunity to do just that.
Sure. So there's this concept in the business world now called customer discovery. It's kind of understanding the wants and needs of your customer. Mm-hmm. You seem to me to be your own customer because you've had all of that experience in industry, that you know what is needed, you know what the pitfalls are and the problems are, and so you're able to use this research to drive towards those solutions that you may not have been able to focus on when you were in industry.
That's an interesting way to put it. You're exactly right. Understanding the customer is critical. And the medical device industry, we knew exactly what the customer wanted. But now we're projecting forward, what are electric vehicles going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What's the grid going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What do we need to do to integrate wind, incredibly important part of Long Island's future, as well as solar? What does the energy storage need to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? One thing I certainly learned in his industry is if the need is already upon you as a researcher, that's typically late. You have to stay ahead of that need set and anticipate where technology is going to need to go to be able to lay the groundwork in research and technology to be ready for when the market is ready.
Sure. The Energy Center. So you have several labs in there, 3, soon to get a couple more. What research are you doing there? If you can kind of summarize what the wants and what the goals are going on there, both for your existing labs and for the new labs, and how has the Energy Center helped? Could you be in any lab, or being affiliated with the Energy Center, has that brought something to the table for you?
So I'm director of an energy Frontier Research Center funded by the Department of Energy. This is a $12 million center. And much of the research that we're doing at the Energy Center has to do with the EFRC. One of the goals that we're looking for as part of the EFRC is to think about how to scale batteries, meaning how do you make them bigger without compromising safety, performance, cost, everything else. And so we have several projects running at the Energy Center that are really redefining how battery architecture needs to look in order for the batteries to be scalable. If we need to make them big, how would we make them big? And again, this is fundamental research, understanding transport properties, but critically important ultimately in developing those guidelines or scientific rules that would allow us to do scalable storage.
Great. Well, we love having you in the building. The students there provide incredible life and enthusiasm. So it's always nice to walk down the hallways. In the time we have left, I want to switch gears for a second. You are a very successful woman in STEM. You're one of the leading patent holders in the country. You're well respected internationally. What was it like to be a woman in the 70s in a STEM program going to college? What was that like for you?
You know, I have to say that I can really tell that things have evolved even over the course of my career. I remember going to professional meetings, professional society meetings, technical ones, of course, where there might be, a few hundred people in the audience, and I think you could count the number of women in the audience, on the fingers of your hands. And it's evolved to the point where there are many, many women there now, not only in mid-career, but students, postdocs. It's really exciting. In our own research group, I co-advise students with my husband, Ken Takeuchi, and research professor, Amy Marshallock. And our group is about 50% female. And in the hard sciences, that's pretty unusual. Mostly it still is dominated by, by male students. And that's true in chemistry and true in engineering, and we have a pretty good mix. And my view is that just by being there and demonstrating to aspiring young scientists, young female scientists, that it's possible to make a career, that it's possible to be successful, that there is a path forward for them, I think really does help them and encourage them to participate and say, hey, maybe I can do this too. This isn't such an aberration. This is becoming kind of a normal course of activities these days.
Well, I think you can definitely, you're a role model for them. So even if you may not think of yourself that way, or you may not go out of your way to say that, I just think your presence and your successes have brought that up. So to wrap up, to conclude, so thank you for your time. But looking at energy storage, I mean, you're still doing research. You just got another grant, and you're forming another institution in the Energy Center.
Yep.
What do you see as the future for energy storage for batteries? Where do you see us going in the next 5 to 10 years, and what do you see your role and the Energy Center's role in that process?
I think that the two main activities that are really going to dominate energy storage over the next 5 to 10 years are larger format batteries. I think consumer electronics will continue to advance, but I think it's electric vehicles and some form of storage that links with renewable energy that are going to be critically important over the next 5 to 10 years. Those two requirements are different. The one thing they have in common is they both need to be low cost. But for electric vehicles, size, weight is really, really important. For grid and renewable energy, size and weight are not so important, but boy, it sure needs high cycle life and long lifetime. So I think those two activities are going to be hugely impactful over the next 5 to 10 years.
Great. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do at the Energy Center and what your team does. So with that, thank you very much, Esther. I'm Dave Hamilton, and this was Energy.